we've got a tremendous opportunity in this next election to get Vermont back on track. There's a couple reasons why I'm running for governor. One is it's clear we've got to focus in Vermont on creating jobs. I mean, that's across the country, in Vermont as well, people are suffering. So we've got to focus on job creation, but we also have to protect the things that make our state special. To me, that's our beautiful natural environment, our working landscape, forests and farms, our village centers, and our vibrant communities. The fact that we have so many activities, not just here, but in every community of the state. We've been presented with a false choice these past 8 years. And the false choice has been either we protect the environment or we grow jobs. That when we protect the environment, we're making Vermont so that it's not business friendly. And I would bet all of you in the room agree that that is just not true. It is precisely because we are good stewards of the environment that we can and will succeed economically. Right? I mean, think about some of our great companies. Burton Snowboard, my good friend Donna Carpenter, she tells me she could be anywhere in the world, but she chooses to have Burton Snowboards here in Vermont because of our environmental effort. Same thing with Seventh Generation, the Hollanders, old friends. They could be anywhere in the country, but they want their company to be here in Vermont. Green Mountain Coffee Roasters, there was a little fluff up about whether they were going around. They weren't going anywhere. Well, first of all, Green Mountain is in their name, right? They wouldn't go anywhere. But they weren't thinking about going anywhere. They're staying here. So we just need to look at it and say, okay, we have to protect the things that make us special because that's why we're going to succeed in this next decade and for our next generation. So I've been Secretary of State for 12 years. It's a long time. And some of you can remember back 12 years ago when I first ran for office. And I had kids 2, 4, and 7 years old. So over the course of the 12 years, they've all gotten taller than me, which is a good thing. And there's been a lot of change. But one thing that hasn't changed is my passion and commitment to public service. Right? I'm doing this because I believe that government can be an agent of positive change. And that in partnership with community, in partnership with activists, we really can do good things for people. We can protect our environment. We can move this state forward. So I'm ready to take the next step and get Vermont back on track so that we'll be a leader again. And this is something that we have to do together. It's not something that any of us up here can do on our own. And so, I'm going to end my opening by just thanking you all for taking your Saturday to come here today to be first to start. Some of you know that my husband Paul was our first recycling czar. When they created a position at the Agency of Natural Resources of recycling chief. And so, when I thought about these numbers, this goal of 50%, it's not such a high goal. I mean, if you look around the country, there are communities who are exceeding it. They're reducing their waste well above 50%. They're getting their recyclables. And I know in Vermont, we have local control, right? We've got solid waste districts that make decisions. In my community, there's curbside recycling and it's mandatory recycling. It's very convenient. But every solid waste district approaches this differently. And I think we've got to take a look at this to see if it continues to make sense. For me, this question really is a question about leadership. Okay, anyone who's dealt with the Agency of Natural Resources over the past 8 years knows that that department has been eviscerated, right? It's been run at the top by folks who are not mission-focused managers. They don't necessarily believe in the particular mission of the agencies. And while there's still a lot of good people working there, there's not a lot of you left. There's been such incredible cuts. And, I guess what I want to say about this challenge is it is a challenge of leadership. It's about having a governor in place who cares, who pays attention, who brings people to the table to solve the problem. And that's what I'm going to do. If we don't, we're going to continue to fall behind. But first off, I want to say say that I'm a very strong supporter of the current use policy. As governor, I'm going to protect the things that make Vermont special, and this means our open landscape, our open spaces. And current use is a way that we do this. It's one of our big success stories. It was enacted in the 70s because we recognized that if we taxed our open land at its highest and best use, as though it were fully developed, it creates a development pressure. So this isn't about giving away money to rich out-of-staters, right? It's about protecting land and keeping it open for our future. You know, it was written in the 70s and it really hasn't been touched much since then. So there are things we can be doing to make it more efficient and more effective. There's a report that came out in September. A lot of the folks here were involved in coming up with some of the suggestions. You know, we could be doing things like increasing the homestead exclusion to 5 acres, and that will make it cost a little bit less. We can change the method of assessing and collecting the land use change tax. We can create a more equitable formula for state reimbursements to towns. The key, though, is that we've got to be committed to this policy. It's not a program, it's a policy. We have to be committed to this policy. It's fair, it makes sense. Think about it. Open land doesn't cost towns half as much as developed land to serve, right? So it makes sense. As governor, I would take this report as a starting point and look at ways to strengthen the program and make it fair. Well, first I want to say that Peter up here should get a lot of credit for passing this feed-in tariff bill. It's the first in the nation, and other states, believe me, have been watching how it's working here. And while we can quibble about what the appropriate purchase price should be for the power and whether more should go for wind or for solar or maybe for other things, I think we can all agree that we need far more of our power to come from renewable energy. Standard offers a great first step. I mean, it shows us that there's a lot of renewable power available and that we can get it quickly, right? We've got more people who want to provide this to us than we have money to make it happen. Local energy projects, I believe, are good for the economy, and I'll bring that value to the governor's office. We've got to be concerned about the cost to ratepayers, but we need to balance this with the benefit we get from local energy projects. It creates jobs, it supports business, it keeps our money in state, and the more we circulate the money within state, the better it is for everyone. We need to have a broader effort to get more renewable power, and you know, one of the places where the governor's really been problematic is with wind. Wind, like all generation, has environmental impacts. We've got to face that, right? So we have to responsibly handle how we're going to promote wind projects in Vermont. I don't think we need to hold wind to a higher standard, though, than we hold, for example, nuclear in Vermont. You know, if you cited nuclear on the top of mountains, we would have none in the country. You know,